You can feel it. Max Verstappen has muscled his way back into the title conversation. 2 straight wins, real heat, and a car that finally looks alive under him again. With 7 Grands Prix and 3 sprints still to run, he sits 69 points behind championship leader Oscar Piastri and 44 behind Lando Norris. That's a canyon, not a crack. But the last 2 weekends made it feel crossable. The comeback is on paper. Turning it into reality will demand perfection, pressure, and a little chaos. Why does this resurgence feel real? Because Red Bull's Monza package wasn't hype. A revised floor appeared in Italy, and the RB21's balance suddenly looked like something Verstappen could lean on again. More platform stability, a calmer rear on entry, and the kind of consistency that lets him attack instead of babysit the tires. Technical reporting since Monza and Baku links the step to underbody efficiency and smarter front-end beam wing choices that broaden the operating window. It isn't the 2023 rocket ship, but it's a foundation he trusts. And that's lethal in Max's hands. Even so, the math is cruel. If Verstappen ran the table, wins in all 7 remaining Grand Prix and all 3 sprints, he'd add 199 points. Now imagine Piastri finishing second in everything left. That's 147 points to Oscar. The totals? Verstappen 454, Piastri 471, still a 17-point gap. That's why Max can't just be perfect. He needs McLaren to blink. For 2025, Grand Prix wins still pay 25. Sprints pay 8-1 for the top 8, and the fastest lap bonus point has been scrapped. No easy extra to claw back. Here's the blessing in disguise. McLaren's fight is a 2-headed creature. Piastri and Norris are both in the hunt, and title-contending teammates almost always skim points from each other across a run-in. Verstappen doesn't have to beat one megastar every week. He has to beat whichever papaya is ahead on the day. His job is to be relentlessly present, in their mirrors on Saturdays, within strategy range on Sundays, so that small stumbles become big swings. And McLaren know the threat. Norris has openly framed Verstappen as a genuine late-season factor. There's also the psychology, which Verstappen plays like a grandmaster. When Oscar handed a position back to Lando at Monza, Max laughed on the radio. That wasn't random, it was a nudge. He understands that 2 drivers chasing 1 crown equals friction. Tiny doubts about team orders, upgrade priority, or who gets the undercut. Verstappen doesn't need fireworks. He needs micro moments of hesitation. He'll keep the pressure on with qualifying laps that force split strategies and race pace that pins one McLaren while hunting the other. And yes, Red Bull brought front-end tweaks for Singapore too. More subtle sandpaper on the edges of the package, but still pressure building. Experience matters more in October than in April. And Verstappen is a 4-time world champion, for a reason. He's lived the trenches of a run-in. He knows how to shut out the noise, and he tends to raise his baseline when the stakes spike. Norris and Piastri are sensational, but neither has closed out a world title yet. Max, 69 down with 7 to go, can drive like a man, with nothing to lose. If he rolls into Abu Dhabi still alive, he'll carry a freedom his rivals won't. That edge is anchored in the 4 straight titles from 2021-2024, the muscle memory of winning when everything tightens, all of which funnels into the week that might decide everything. Singapore. Marina Bay is a deal-breaker for this comeback. It punishes stiff cars over curbs and bumps, and in recent seasons it has been a bogey venue for Red Bull's ground effect machines. In 2022, Verstappen's qualifying was derailed by a late instruction to abort his lap to preserve the mandatory fuel sample. He recovered only to P7 in 2023. Both Red Bulls fell out in Q2 and Max reached P5. In 2024, he salvaged P2 behind Norris. And at that point, Singapore stood as the one active venue he still hadn't conquered. The track is brutal, the walls are close, the rhythm is unforgiving. If there's a place to expose a car's weaknesses or a driver's focus, this is it. The twist? This weekend he looks rapid under the floodlights. Verstappen topped final practice, then missed pole by less than 2/10 after feeling balked on his last push. George Russell starts P1 with Piastri P3 and Norris P5. On top of that, the FIA has issued its first formal heat hazard designation for a Grand Prix. Marina Bay's combination of temperature and humidity is savage, and the tiniest lapses are punished. If Max wins here, the narrative detonates. If he bleeds points to either McLaren, the arithmetic hardens fast. So what would a Singapore win actually mean? First, it flips the psychological ledger. It tells McLaren that even on their kind of track, high downforce, curb punishment, patience corners, he can pry open a result. Second, it yields the 7-point swing he needs over whoever finishes second, and it sets the tone for a run through a string of circuits he loves. Third, it proves the Monza Baku form wasn't just low-drag voodoo. It travels. If that happens, both papayas feel the walls inch inward, because the margin for error collapses when Verstappen is parked within undercut range every Sunday. Past Singapore, the schedule starts to read like his scrapbook. Austin. October 19th. Circuit of the Americas is a complete driver's track. Rhythm in the S's, traction tests out of slow hairpins, and genuine tire management in long stints. It's also a sprint weekend, so Saturday points are live, and Verstappen already owns multiple COTA wins, including 2021 and 2023. Mexico City, October 26, thinner air, huge crowds, and a Verstappen playground. He holds the modern record for victories there. São Paulo, November 9th, sprint. Interlagos turns wild the moment rain teases the radar, and if you're betting on anyone in mixed conditions, you choose Max. Las Vegas, November 2022. Cool night temps can scramble tire warm-up, and Ferrari or Mercedes may steal points from the papayas. Qatar, November 28 to 30, sprint. Verstappen has won both Qatar GPs since the race returned, so the place suits him. Abu Dhabi, December 5 to 7. Yas Marina leans towards slow-speed grip, where McLaren are strong. But it's also where Max has closed out titles and big wins before. Red Bull's hope is that the car they've unlocked since Monza keeps translating beyond low-downforce trim. The race noted Verstappen had a fresh floor spec at Monza that Yuki Tsunoda didn't, and the gain wasn't merely track-specific. Technical features after Baku pointed to synergy between that floor, trimmed front wing elements, and beam wing choices that let Max hit the tire window and sustain pace. If that package is carried into the high-load venues rather than replaced, it could be the spine of a closing streak. Don't ignore the midfield. Silver and red cars can still steal headlines. Mercedes underlined their form by taking Singapore pole through Russell, and Ferrari tend to sniff podiums when strategy breaks their way. If either camp splits the McLarens on a Sunday, that's gold dust for Max. It reduces the odds of the dreaded Piastri and P2 metronome and keeps a lid on Oscar's haul. Singapore qualifying already offered a glimpse. Russell P1, rookie Kimi Antonelli P4, Hamilton P6. Interlopers aren't theory, they're pressure points. Quick pit stop. Let's chart a realistic path. Step 1. Take a chunk out of both McLarens in Singapore. Step 2. Convert the Sprint plus Grand Prix double at Austin, where Red Bull and Verstappen have a proven playbook. Step 3. Lean on Mexico, where his record speaks for itself. Step 4. Stay in front of both papayas at Interlagos and pray for weather. Step 5. Survive Vegas without tire warm-up drama, while Ferrari and Mercedes poach points. Step 6. Make Qatar count. He owns the place in this rule set, and roll into Abu Dhabi with live math. There's also the subtle art of presence. Verstappen doesn't need to torch every lap. He just needs to live at the front. That forces McLaren to choose who to cover, and those choices carry a tax. Cover Oscar with an undercut. You expose Lando. Box Lando to protect track position. You hand Verstappen a tire life delta. 2 papayas in a prisoner's dilemma, plus a Red Bull stalking, turns normal strategy trees into traps. That's how title swings happen, without anyone blowing it. One more thing, the heat. The FIA's new heat hazard designation for Singapore tells you how punishing this part of the season can be. Races like Singapore and Qatar punish any driver who's 0.5% off physically or mentally. Verstappen's racecraft under fatigue is part of his edge. He tends to make fewer errors when everyone else's brain is boiling. If he couples that with a reliable RB21 and clean pit stops, the margins begin to tilt. So, is the title actually on? Mathematically, yes. Realistically, it hinges on Singapore. If he wins, the 7-point swing plus the morale hit could ignite a run through Austin and Mexico. If he loses ground, the runway shrinks to stubs. The saving grace is the McLaren two-front war. They cannot both maximize every weekend. Verstappen's task is to keep both of them in sight, exploit every yellow flag and safety car, and make October feel longer than it is. Do that, and Abu Dhabi stops looking like a farewell tour and starts feeling like a title decider. Here's my call. If Max clears Singapore with a win or a healthy margin over both McLarens, game on isn't hyperbole, it's a forecast. If he stumbles, the wall becomes a cliff. Either way, he has dragged himself from a footnote back into the headline. By upgrade, by grit, and by a mind that loves the chase. And if we're lucky, the last laps of 2025 will be the kind you remember exactly where you were when you watched them.